Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be injecting at runtime a component. And because when I look at a purchasable item, yes, I have a playlist type, and then I have this other type here, which is a purchase currency. And what I want to have happen is when that is selected, I want to inject another component right below it, which just asks which type of currency that you want. So I need to implement that, and I have a little bit of an example of how to do this. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make a injectable component which I want to call a first thing I want to do is I want to make an ng generate component, which is going to be called a purchasable item currency. And we need to import that into my app module. I've been looking for somewhere to start my morning. Glad you found us here. We usually run in the mornings here. Now that I've done that, I also want to have a service for posting it. So I'm going to make a new ng generate service called injection. I'll call it component injection. And I'll move, oops. And I'll move my purchasable item currency. I'll leave it right there. And I want to look at my service for this, component injection service. And I'm going to move that to my services class. And I need to fix that in my auth config. In my app module. And when I look at the service, what I want to have in here is the first thing is I want to have a post here, which will be a new behavior subject. And I'm going to do this of an I post. Okay, so I need to have a interface for my I post. So I'm going to say a interface, and this is going to be called I injectable component. And I'll move that into my interfaces. And what this is going to have is a type, which will be a string, and I think that's all I really need. TS Lens is angry with me at this. So I'll do this on the constructor. This will be a behavior component, a behavior subject of an I post. Of a I injectable component. And we'll instantiate that to be a new behavior subject of I injectable component, like that. Okay, the next thing I want to have is a post types. And that'll be a list of string. Okay, the next thing I want to have here is a constructor, which is going to be setting my types here. So in my types, I don't care what type it is. And what I want to do is I want to do a this dot post types dot, and I want to use this as my, this is going to be called a purchase item currency component. And we want to set that equal to a purchase item currency component. And then I want to have a class in here called a get class, which will be a class type, which is a string. And in this, I just want to return this dot post types. Either trust me, StarCraft 2. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing today? If you have any questions what I'm working on, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. Any reason why using Angular instead of React or Vue? I'm not using Vue because I'm using Angular as an entire framework, and Vue works really well if you're like injecting it into a different framework. Like I like Vue with ASP.NET Razor, for example. And I'm not using React because I don't know React at this time. And I want to return it of my class type. Okay. Now, I want to emit this injectable container here. When it receives the right piece of data. So I want to have a, we want to have a hub service which is there. And then I want to say this dot hub service dot, and we're going to do it as a get purchasable item currency dot subscribe, and that's going to be a purchasable item currency. So when we get that type, then I want to do a this dot post dot next, and I want to pass in my we need to create a new const injectable component equals a type of injectable component, which is equal to, and in this I also want to have a component here, which will be any. So my type here is going to be equal to purchasable item currency, and the component is going to be equal to my purchasable item currency. Okay. So now we're going to do a this.post.next my injectable component. And I want to change this to be called my object. Okay. That should be it for my component injection service. So now when I look at my app routing module, I want to make sure that I have a purchasable item component in my app module done correctly for the service, okay? And then in my purchasable items, what I need to have here is I need to have it's a singular one. I'm subscribed to my purchasable item here, which is right. And then I also want to inject a private resolver, which is a component factory resolver, and a private view reference, which is a view container reference. We also need to have a private injection component, which is a injection service, which is a injection service. Component injection service. So down here we can do a this dot injection service is equal to, and what I want to do is have a new subscription here called a injection. No, it's called a injection service subscription. And it's this one. And that's going to be equal to a this dot injection service dot, and then I'm subscribing directly to post, and then I'm subscribing it as a injectable component, like that. And then what I want to do is I want to say if my injection component exists, then I want to say this dot data is equal to my injection component. And up here I want to have a data, which is called an injectable component. else there is no content. So that's fine. And then below this, I want to say if my injection component exists and my injection component dot and all we have in here is a type. Then what we want to do is I want to do a injection component and we're going to do a this.injectionService.get class of my injection component.type. And then I want to get my factory from my this.resolver.resolve component factory of my class T. And then I want to do a component reference here of my view reference. Create component of type factory. And then I want to do this interesting looking piece of code, a component ref dot instance dot data is equal to my component ref dot is equal to my injection component dot object. If I look at what a content component is, interesting. I'll make an interface for this called a I content component. Like that. Okay, when I look back in my services, I want to look at my HTML in here, and I don't have anything. So this is working when I'm retrieving the component here. Which should be creating this component reference. The other way I could do this is with ifs, but we could just see if this is working. So let's run it. The thing is it doesn't know when to inject. Or is it because it's only going to know that one? So let's see what happens if I run the app. And I'll make a new one and I set this to that. Or let's go back and I'll make a new one, set this to purchasable item currency. And I'll save it. It didn't save it as the right type. It's not saving any of them as the right type again. When I look at my request here, type is null. When I look back here on the front end, I look at my TS, value is purchasable item type. Which is here as a string. And let me get rid of this for a second. And here I want to do a console.log of my request and then a console.log of this.purchasable item type. When I look at my console, it did in fact give me my object, which has an item type of undefined. We'll run it again. That's fine. It says username change. So back over here in the front end, it's this.get purchasable item type. And that's a string. And so here you're asking to retrieve the one with this name. So we could do it the other way, which is a get purchasable item type from a string, and we're going to return a number. And in this, I'm just going to do a case on my type, which will have a, sorry, it's a switch on the type. And then we're going to have a case playlist. Which will be a return a 0, case playlist songs, which will return a 1, We have this next one here, which will be that and that. The next one is username change, which will be a 2. The last one is purchase currency, which will be a 3. So this is going to be a this dot get purchasable item type of this string. Which is now passing in a 2. So now when I look at this entity, it has the correct type. So I can scrap this out now. And then the same thing on this one. And we'll run it again. You're off to go get some coffee? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay, it doesn't look like I'm connected to the hub. And now when I look at this and I create it, it has the correct type. It's made one for username change. And when I look here, it's now mapping correctly. So that's good. So let's remove my everything but my single playlist. In my front end, where I'm saying my delete purchasable item. In here. Need to balance my food versus coffee. Got the shakes. Okay, I understand now. Okay, this one's the username change. So I want to edit this and I'm going to say that this is a username change. And we'll say the quantity is 5 and it's only one of those. Okay, so that's looking much better now for my currencies. So now when I'm in my home and I choose to, when I'm in account and I choose change username, I want this to add those. So when I look at my account and I have my change username here, at the movement, this is acting like a submit button. So my type here needs to be just a button. Okay. And then what I want to do is I need to first do a this.hubservice.request purchasable items here. And now I need to subscribe on this, which is called a purchasable items subscription, and then also a purchasable item subscription. We need to destroy those. Like that. And then in here we're going to do a this dot purchasable item subscription is equal to this dot hub service dot get purchasable item singular. And we're going to subscribe a user, which is a purchasable item. And then we also need to do the same thing for the plural. Now, when I got this one, I want to have a next action on this component. So here we want to do a const selected item is equal to your purchasable objects.filter, and I want to do it for the X where my purchasable item type is equal to. And if I look in my get purchasable item types here, we can take this one, move it up here, and that's going to be a username change. Like that. And you want to get the first one. Okay. And now I want to say if there is a selected item. Good morning, remote. How are you doing today? Then I want to do if my selected item dot, I want to do a this dot hub service dot request purchasable item of my selected item dot ID. So now when we get our purchasable item here, now I want to do a I want to add this to the playlist, right? So we want to pass in here the purchasable item. No, it's a change username. Which then we're going to have this add username change to cart, and it's going to be a purchase of it's going to be a purchasable item as an purchasable item. And we're going to change this to be add purchasable item to cart. And all we're going to do is my cart service, and we're going to add this, and then we're going to navigate to it. And then we want to do a this dot toaster service dot success. You have added a plus my purchasable item dot name to your cart. And we're going to say this is add success. So this one we want to say this dot add purchasable item to cart is a purchasable item. And you're going to do a this dot add purchasable item to cart of your purchasable object. And this one you can do the same thing. This dot add purchasable item to cart of your purchasable object. Yeah, I see that. Okay. Fine, thanks. And you? I'm doing good. Okay. Let me move this up here. And now what I need up here is a enum. And I wonder if I can just do that. Right here as a enum. Next. Request type. Second. And in this, I want this to have a playlist songs, or a username change, because that's all you can do from this screen. And then we need to have a private next request type, which is a next request type. So this is going to be a next request type is equal to next request type dot username change. And this one's going to be a playlist songs. Playlist. And we need this to be a this.hubservice.request purchasable items. And then this one here as well to be a playlist songs. And we will request the purchasable items types. So up here, before I switch on this, I want to do a switch on my this dot next request type. And so in my case, next request type dot playlist songs and username change. And what I want to do is I want to have a let selected item, which is a type of purchasable item. In this one, it's going to be a selected item is equal to your purchasable objects filter, where this is equal to your type, like that. And this one's going to be a playlist songs and username change. Playlist songs, and my x dot quantity is equal to 1. And this one will be and your s dot quantity is equal to 15. Then you're going to request that item and add it to your cart. So that should do it. Can you explain the meaning of triple X equal sign? Yeah. 1 equal sign means assignment. 2 means comparison, and in JavaScript and TypeScript, 3 means that it also checks the type to make sure that it's the same type. So when I look now at the OpenDJ Radio, and I go to my account and I click on change username, we can say it added it to the cart. If I look at username change, this only needs to be 1 for the quantity. Which also means that in the purchasable, in my cart now, I should have a quantity of 1. It didn't update my subtotal on my cart. We need to add on the cart here a button called a right here. I need to have a button which looks like this, and I want this to say remove from cart, which doesn't have a header, which will be this accent and an outline, and we're going to say remove from cart, and it's going to pass in my element.id. And we're going to say this is remove from cart. And then on the back side, we'll have a interesting, navigates you back to cart when you update quantities. That doesn't matter. Remove from cart is going to be a this, and it's a ID of a string, and it's a this dot cart service dot remove purchasable item from cart, and it's actually just going to be the ID. Like that. And then when you're done with this, you want to do a this dot get subtotal. And then you want to do this dot get subtotal. Special feature JavaScript. I'm a beginner on the JavaScript side. No worries. What's your familiarity? And then we also need to have up here a remove from cart. So now if I look at a purchasable item and I look at account and I want to change the username, it says I can remove it from the cart. Which fires here. And then we want to do a purchasable items here, which is your cart service. So if you look at this, when you update your subtotals, I don't think in the cart it's doing this dot items, purchasable items are equal to this dot cart service dot purchasable items. Good morning, Necromancer Velho. Welcome back. It's good to have you with us. How goes it today? So is this even firing? Yes. We remove it from the cart here. We'll check it here. Hey there, Pay1NGO Con. Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them into the chat. If you're a developer, make sure you check out our Discord. We're up to over 340 developers. It's a really great technical resource. Highly recommend you check that out. Nothing in cart. So in your cart service, when we remove this, can't I just do a this dot router dot navigate by URL back to my cart? And same thing here. Why does this? Oh my gosh, I know why this isn't updating. Because when you do this, we need to do my this dot data source dot data equals this dot purchasable items. Boom. If your quantity is 0, we want to remove it. So here, what you want to do is, for each var element in the purchasable items, I want to say if my element dot quantity is less than or equal to 0, then I want to remove it. This dot purchasable items dot splice. And I want to do my start number will be the this dot purchasable items dot index of my element. And we want to remove 1. Same thing here. Else you want to do this. And then our element here is purchasable item. So now when I look at account, if I add it and then I remove it, it's good. It removes. It didn't update my subtotal for some reason. Good. So it's just not updating the subtotal on the cart. And when you get your subtotal, that should be a number. Like that. And then the same thing there. Beautiful. Now what I can do is I can remove in the cart service that alert. Okay. The next purchasable item I want to have here is we have a pack of 3, which is a playlist, and you get 3 for $2. The next one here is called a 5-pack of playlist, and that'll be $4. No, this should be $3. No, unfortunately, this is not public. If you guys know how to do currency formatting in Angular CLI, let me know. And then here we'll do a 10 pack. Of playlists, which will be 10 for $5. Okay. We also need to have one here for the playlist songs, which is going to be 15 additional song slots for $1. And then we want to have 40 additional song slots for $2. Come on. And then we want to have a $80 additional song slots, which will be for $3. And the last one is 150 playlist songs for $5. We'll say at 160. And we'll save that. 160 playlist song slots. Like that. Okay, the only thing left now are our currencies. And if I look at that, at the moment, it's not going to let me, if I was to add one here just as a test, it's not injecting, which is okay. So if I look at my account now and I add another playlist, if I go back here to my purchasable item component, I need to add in here that under account, that this is just a button, and that one's just a button. Okay, we can remove it. That looks fine. So now we need to figure out what's going on with my PayPal, because we should be seeing the PayPal screen. We want this to be different based on roles. So I think this needs to have two things called unit quantity and then quantity in the item. So if I look at my purchasable item in my interface, it needs to have a quantity and then a order quantity. And when you look at the cart, we want to have here a order quantity like that. And then if I look at the TS here, this needs to be called order quantity. Now when I look here at my subtotal, this is my order quantity, like that. My order quantity should always be 1. So we want to make a new class, a new interface here called a purchasable item line item. Which is going to have a purchasable item that it extends. And we want to add in here the order quantity. Which is a purchasable item line item. And in this, we're going to make a new const line item is a purchasable item line, which is a, why would it always be 1? Because you're only ever going to buy 1 quantity of an item, and then if you want additional of them, you can add that onto the cart. Can I just say this? And then this is a let, because we're going to say my line item dot quantity order quantity equals 1. Okay, we'll just have to add these one by one. So the line items are these and then an order quantity. And the last one here is the order quantity, which will be 1. And then we're going to push my line item here and get my subtotal. This needs to be purchasable line items. Like that. For each purchasable line item, I want to get my order quantity, and then we're going to get the index of it, purchasable line items. Otherwise, we'll get the discount applied and multiply it by the order amount. Where are we getting subtotal? Here, that's fine. And then this is a purchasable line item called a purchasable line item. No problem. Like that. So now back in my cart, this is a purchasable line item. Like that. Purchasable line item. Okay. That's looking pretty good now. So if I run this, I change my username. Oops, I need to be logged in. It says, can I read property length of undefined? All right, that's interesting. It says it's in my HTML here. Item name, order quantity. Line cost here, which is order quantity times the unit cost. Times 1 minus my element dot discount. That's called a element here is the cart, which is a discount applied. Purchasable items length, line items. There it is. We can remove it from the cart. It updates. We want to have in here a toaster service. Like that. And if we in fact remove this from cart, I want to say this.toasterservice.success. You have removed. And you want to say a const selected item is equal to your this.purchasable line items dot filter x, where my x.id is equal to id of the first one. If my selected item exists, then we can just do this. You have removed the selected item.name from your cart. And we're going to say removed from cart. Account, add another playlist, remove from cart. Account, add another playlist, 5. Update the quantity. My subtotal is 5. Which is right. Okay. The next thing I need to do is figure out why it's telling me my sandbox key is wrong for my PayPal, because I'm expecting it here in HTML to be populating right here, and it's not. So if I look at my cart component, if I look at my sizes here, we can choose a large. And we have my sandbox and production IDs here. I think I need to update those, because what it's telling me when I'm looking at my cart is client ID not found. So I need to update my client ID. So I should be able to, in the developers portal for PayPal, I should be able to log in. So give me a second to log in here. Okay, I'm logged in. Now when I look here, I have a one app rest. So let's take a look at that, and I need to copy my key over. Give me just a second. Okay, I pasted that in. Now we can try it again. And there it is. So now when I do a PayPal, this is going to issue it through my sandbox. We look good. It's probably not going to take and tell me I need to create a username. Maybe not. Second. And then it wants me to add a fake number. And then I can make a transaction here. Looks great though. So I want to do a currency format in Angular 7. So this is showing me how to do it using A and B records. Hey Haas the Mage, how are you doing? Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. So if I look at this one, we can do this one as a currency USD. Which is good. And then up here in my line total, I want this to be a currency of USD. Okay. And this one brought in the wrong unit and add more songs per playlist, 15 additional songs. So the only one that didn't work here was this add another playlist and change username. Yeah, that's all looking great. Back here in purchasable items, we want to do this with a cost as a currency in USD. That looks right. This should be a percent. So I want to do Angular 7% format. And I should be able to do that here with a percent pipe. Where did it go? Good. What's the use of OpenDJ Radio? It's a music request app that is a open community sort of thing. So you get a room, other people can join the room, people wager. They can wager on songs to make requests. You can wager on them to move them up or down in the queue. And it's a social game, so to say. Okay. We have this one still, which I need to add. And then if I look inside of one of these, we want a purchasable item here. This one needs to be a pipe currency. Not sure it'll let me do that. So we want to do Angular, CLI. I want to do currency input. How do I do that? We want to do a input text box angular CLI as a currency. It's a custom directive. It's so nuts. I don't need all this. It should just be built right in. And this one needs to be %. So we want to use a angular pipe currency in a text box. Just says to put it in here like how I had it. Pipe currency USD true. It says ng model needs to be an expression, which is just this. How weird of a change. Does it make a difference? Yeah, it did. Now it's piping it as cost, which means that I can do the same thing here as a %. Okay, so the only thing left is to have our type here for purchase currency. And when that happens, we want to retrieve currency, and then we want to show that text box for it. So currently I've built this whole injection system, which I should be able to get rid of because it's not working. Which also will break it in the purchase item, I think, will break. No, wait. We never actually tried it because it was commented out. So we'll bring that back in here. In services. And try it. Can't resolve all objects, it says. So we can get rid of this, and this one, and this one. And then I can get rid of all of this, and my component injection service. So I want to Angular material drop down event. We want this selection change event. In the mat select, selection change equals purchasable item type change, which will pass in my event.value. And then in here, I can do this event, which is an any, and I can do a alert called a change event, and then we can do a console.log of my event. We go back into here, create one, change event. Good. When I look at what the event says, it's actually just a name. So I want to do a if my event is equal to purchase currency, then we need to do a this.hubService.request currencies. Which is up here, and I want to have a currency subscription called plural. And then a currency subscription, and then in here we want to do a this dot currency subscription is equal to this dot hub service dot get currencies dot subscribe on it as my currencies, and all we're going to do is a this dot currencies equals currencies. Which is a currencies is an iCurrency array. And so then here I should be able to do a div, call it ngIf currencies dot length is greater than 0. Then we're just going to do this again here as one of these for a currency type with no change event. Currency type and currencies. And that's going to be your currency, the whole thing, or you could just do it for the ID. And you're going to say that this is your currency.currency name. And here we need to have a currency type. There's a string. We'll say currency ID. We can get rid of the component injection service. We can try it out here. And it worked. we made it. So now when you do this and you're saving your purchasable item here, I want to say if this dot currency ID is equal to undefined, or this dot currency ID is equal to null, or this dot currency ID is equal to nothing, then we'll do this. And then on our change event, else, I want to say this dot currencies is equal to null, just is equal to a new one. And then I want to say this dot currency ID is equal to nothing. And so now when we do this, if we have my else here, we can have this in there, and then I can say else we want to do that, and then this kicks out of the router like that. Otherwise, we're going to do one of these, called it a purchasable item currency, which is going to have a currency, which is this dot currency ID, which we're going to change that whole thing to be currency, I currency, and then currency. Okay, so now when we look here at this, we create one, and I say test, and I say it's a purchase currency, and we say schmeckles, and it's 5. If I change it back, it should go back away. I save it, and there it is as a purchase currency. The problem is if I were to remove it and do a purchase currency again with schmeckles, and then I change this back to username and I add it, good, it changed it and it got rid of it. So Remote sent the link over of where we developed the Angular page from. So I'm actually out of time for this morning. Thanks for staying with me. I may be back this afternoon, but more than likely it'll be first thing in the morning again tomorrow. Let's see, today we are on day 12 of the app, so we technically have 2 more days to finish it up. But once we get the PayPal stuff done, the other pieces are pretty straightforward. So thanks for staying with me. I will see you guys a little bit later, and have a great rest of your morning. If you haven't, make sure you check out our Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. We're up to over 340 developers, and then I also put these videos up on YouTube. They're all queued up, and I'm doing the edits, so they're going up little by little right now. So thanks again for staying with me, and I will see you guys in the morning. Bye.